Yeah, and speaking of badass women, we have two here with us. Yeah, we've got two outstanding cinematographers. Great privilege to have both of them speak together. You could do talk, I think, with either of them separately. So to have both of them is like mind meld. It should be extra super juiced power for this morning. The first person we have, and they're going to talk about their passion and their process, and I guess their influences and their inspirations today. So, first we have Kate McCullough, who I know very well because we ended up in film school together many years ago, and we were in the same class. And Kate then studied at the world-renowned film school in Łódź. Afterwards, she studied cinematography there in Poland and learnt Polish. And then Kate and I have worked together numerous times on both short films and feature films. She's done many short films, including one called Mummy's Little Helper, for which she won the Donal Gilligan Award for Best Cinematography at Galway Film Fleadh. And then with her debut feature film documentary, His&Hers, she won the Sundance Award for cinematography. Her debut drama feature, Snap, screened at Tribeca. And in 2014, she was nominated for an IFTA for her work on Here Was Cuba, which was directed by Emer, who's also here. And she's recently completed another documentary with Emer, which is called The Farthest, which opened to rave reviews in America this week. Variety and the New York Times have really put it out there in terms of how they received the film. So I think maybe we'll just start by watching a little trailer for that, just to give you a sense of Kate's work, and then we'll talk a little bit about Frida, and then we'll get into the conversation. Is that okay?
All of planetary exploration to me is a story about longing. It's a longing to know ourselves. It's a longing to understand the significance of our own existence.
There's never going to be another mission like it. It was the first and last of its own kind.
It's the most audacious mission. Who'd have thought that we'd actually be able to do that in 1977?
The spacecraft is quite primitive by modern day standards. Their total memory is about 240,000 times less than in your smartphone.
They figured, don't let this opportunity pass. You're going to throw a message in a bottle into the ocean, put a message in it. The golden record really is the heartbeat of the ship itself.
The greetings to the universe are almost like the first tweets. Keep it short, keep it simple.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
And we have liftoff.
They're traveling at 10 miles per second. You wouldn't even see it, right? And yet, it takes decades to get out there into the outer solar system.
Voyager to me was Homeric. Years of passing across the solar system from one planet to the other, and then it was frenzied activity and discovery and conquest.
4 billion years from now, when our sun turns into a red giant, Voyager is still going to be trucking out there through the stars. We'll still be out there.
This may, in the long run, be the only evidence that we ever existed.
Those cosmic questions we hope to learn by sending our machines out. Where do we come from? Are we alone? What's the universe made of? How will it end?
Now, is that a grand mystery? Whoa.
I'd like to know the answer. Are we alone? I'd like to know the answer to that question.
So I don't know Frida quite so well as I know Kate, but I was speaking to her the other day, and then afterwards I was speaking to Kate, and I was going, she's very giggly. And I'm like, that's terrible, because there's three of us who are quite giggly, so like, we'll try and not giggle our way through the whole thing. But nicely giggly, of course. So Frida has a background in stills photography, and she studied at cinematography at the world-renowned Dramitska Institute. I'm probably not pronouncing that properly.
Really good.
Yeah, right.
Dramitska
Institute in Stockholm in Sweden. She's a member of the Swedish Society of Cinematographers. She shot numerous successful commercials for iconic brands, including IKEA, Burger King, and Vera Moda. She's shot promos and TV. She's currently shooting the second season of a very successful Irish TV show, Striking Out, directed by Lisa James Larson, who's here in the audience with us today. her debut TV show, was it your debut? Real Humans was remade in the UK as Humans. I won't try and pronounce the...
Äkta människor.
Äkta människor. As her debut feature film. And her debut feature film, Ego, is a wonderfully confident film. I watched it last night.
Did you?
Yeah, it totally sucked me in. It was terrible. I was supposed to be watching the cinematography and I got sucked into the movie. And then I was going, actually, that's a really good sign of the cinematography.
Yeah.
I think for me it's the highest compliment, is when you kind of, it becomes such a part of the film that you're just watching the film and the film is your complete absorption. And then afterwards you go, oh God, there were great shots. You know, so that was a
Directed by Lisa.
Oh, right, okay, didn't know that. There you go. So plug for the movie, check it out. It's on iTunes, isn't it?
I think, what is it? I don't know. Oh,
yeah.
Swedish iTunes,
so,
but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
anyway.
But it's really, really enjoyable. So if anybody wants to do anything this evening, go watch that movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I recommend
good.
And now, just to lure you further, we're going to show you the trailer for that.
Yeah.
Man måste kämpa om man ska komma någon vart. Han är tjat. Den här designen kommer alltid föra på plats.
Fin röst.
Fina bröst. Den där flintskalliga skivsnubben var här igår. Ring bara.
Fan, signar alltså. Det är ju som helst ju. Fan, vilken kväll är det?
Eran son har haft en försvagning i blodkärl som skadar syncentra.
Göran och jag vill bara försöka hitta någon som inte irriterar honom så som de andra.
Jag får inte jobba, med blinda förut. Spottade jag på dig?
Man ska inte fråga om jag behöver hjälp med något.
Jag tänkte att du antagligen skulle fråga om du vill ha någon hjälp. Lite 80-tal med telefonsvarare, eller? Jag antar att det passar American Psycho-looken du kör med här.
I want to see you watching what I see now that you're mine.
Det är dina föräldrar. Fantastiska nyheter.
De har bestämt sig för att operera.
Vad ska du göra först?
Alltså jag ska gå tillbaka till mitt gamla liv som det var innan olyckan.
Ska du ut ikväll?
Ja, jag tänkte det.
Då kanske vi ses ute ikväll då?
Gör vi säkert.
Är det verkligen såna där tjejer du gillar med?
Skaffa ett eget liv. Skaffa en liten handikappad pojkvän om du gör dig så glad.
Va? Du är en blind jävla idiot.
Nej, tyvärr jag är inte blind.
Nej, men öppna ögonen då!
Hur ser du ut?
Hur tror du att jag ser ut?
Jag tänker lite som en kortare version av Cameron Diaz ungefär. Stämmer det?
Ja.
Vad för en jävla känsla och sånt.
Nu kommer en geting.
Va?
Okay, so when we kind of spoke briefly about how we wanted to do this, one of the things that concerned us was that we kind of, you go to masterclasses and sometimes it just becomes general discussion and it doesn't really go anywhere. So we kind of agreed that what we like ourselves when we go to a masterclass is sometimes to get into the actual nitty-gritty of specific situations so you can actually learn from concrete examples of things. And then the second thing that it's nice, which is often overlooked, is actually just the bigger picture stuff, to step back from what you're trying to do as a cinematographer and to kind of look at the art of it and kind of just view it in a kind of a more, in a more philosophical way, I guess, and kind of try and understand what the hell. So just with that in mind, I thought let's ask really tricky questions at the start.
Oh, God.
and just kind of, just jump in properly. And so I'm going to ask you, Kate, first, just what is art for you? And how did you end up being a cinematographer? What's the purpose of art?
Okay, right in on the spot there. I suppose it's something that resonates with me, that changes my perspective on how I view the world, whatever it is, whether it's cinema, theatre, painting, dance, that it sort of challenges maybe a concept that I have on the world, or how I view the world, that it sort of gets me to think a little bit differently. I love just coming away from something and feeling okay, something's shifted here in my head. But I don't know whether that qualifies as art, but I suppose if it's saying something new to me, then I feel okay, it's something higher than just entertainment.
Yeah, you said something really interesting yesterday about language and how kind of it's kind of another language for you.
Oh, I was waffling away on the phone.
It's good waffle, worth repeating. So
you sure you want to go back there?
No, I thought it was really good.
Well, no, I was just saying that, like, for me, I think why, and it just kind of dawned on me recently, why I'm working as a cinematographer is probably because I, in terms of spoken word or written word, it's not like my kind of strength in terms of speaking or getting a message across kind of specifically, whereas I feel like with images I can be much more precise. So I started thinking, okay, well actually in a way it's kind of my language to how I can express myself rather than the usual. I mean, Irish people are kind of, we're supposed to be
give to the gab.
Yeah, and so I feel like I'm sort of disabled in that category, and that cinematography has filled that gap. So yeah, I mean, I think you can take a photo of a tree, but there's so many ways that you can take that photo. Like, is it like the way you use adjectives in English or Swedish? So like, what adjectives you want to use, and it's what tools you're going to use in cinematography, like what lenses or what light or what distance or what time of the day or who's in the shot with, and just all these parts start to come into play, and so it's no longer just a tree, it's like there's a kind of an angle on it,
Yeah, your own personal angle.
Yeah.
And how did you end up in cinematography then? Because I know when I met you, you had this green book full of paintings and art and all this stuff, and I was like, wow, like it was really amazing. And you had photographs that were like really kind of challenging for me at the time. I'm going, wow, what's this?
What's going on?
It's like, did she drop the camera? No, it was like really interesting angles on things and stuff. And I remember going, oh wow, it was really amazing. I remember that green book really specifically. So how did you end up? Because I know you thought about being a painter for a while.
Yeah, well, like in school, that was all I was interested in, was art and PE. They were like, everybody else was like, oh god, we have to go and run around, like. Yeah, so I think I then at some point realised, actually I don't want to be just working on my own, like I don't want to be alone painting or whatever it was. So I started getting interested in watching documentaries. Actually, that was kind of the beginning of getting interested in film, but also I think it was like painting to photography was sort of a natural step. Like I got my first stills camera when I was 14 and then just kind of ran around with it. So it wasn't that I was watching movies from the age of 6 and wanting to be a cinematographer. It was more just like, yeah, very much interested in the visual, and then that kind of led into, well, why not tell a story using images or something? Yeah. So yeah, I actually had applied to do photography in Dunleary, and they turned me down.
Hilarious. Brilliant.
And actually also I remember that my art teacher, we had a kind of module, photography module. I came back in with photos and he was like, okay, whatever you do, don't become a photographer.
Oh my god. Oh no. Go on.
So I wonder
Brilliant.
whether there was like reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Good motivator. He's like, how will I get her to become a cinematographer? Good. And Frida, I guess the same question to you. I know it's a tricky one, but yeah, what's the purpose of art for you?
Oh
and
god.
how the hell did you end up being behind
that's
the camera?
really hard question. I don't know. I was brought up with art in my family,
Okay.
like being very creative, and I think that I always had that around me and in my life. And then I went to what we say in Sweden, it was talked about before, högstadiet. I don't know what's that. Where is that in? Like high school?
Oh yeah. It's kind of like because you were saying this to me. It's like it's kind of like leaving cert when you're doing senior cycle.
Yeah.
Senior cert.
So and I did art, and I think it's called art and form or something like that. So you do a lot of that, and that's when I started to take. I started to do photography, and we had a lab, and you could do everything yourself. So it started there, and I think that for me it could have been anything really. Like if I always had it around me and in my life, I can't imagine doing something else.
Okay. And then you had a great story of how you decided.
Oh yeah,
this is amazing.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Of how you decided to do cinematography.
Yeah, I mean, so I did photography, and I was really aiming for becoming a fashion photographer and do commercials and stuff like that. And I was in that world a little bit because I was assisting, like camera assistant. But I didn't like it. It was so superficial, and it was all about the way you looked and what you were wearing and what clubs you went to, and it was just. So I had a friend who lived in London, and I just felt like, you know, I have to go away and figure out what I'm going to do. So I moved to London for 1.5 years or something like that. And I did something totally different. I worked in Wagamama, and I climbed my way up and I became a manager and all that. But I was always thinking, like, maybe one day I should start. And then I had a friend over, and we went to Notting Hill Gate Cinema and watched Amélie from Montmartre, and I was just like, it was really like that moment where you went, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I should do that. I should be a cinematographer. Why didn't I think about that? It was really unbelievable, actually. So I went out of the cinema and said to my friend, I'm going to be a cinematographer. I'm so stupid. Why didn't I think about that? And like all my stills when I did fashion was very filmic. Like it was like stills from films, kind of. So I was already in that mind in a way. I'd done it without knowing it. You know what I mean? Like, so I applied to London Film School. And I got in there, but it was just so expensive. So I just felt like, no, I should go home to Sweden again. So I moved back, and then I went to film school. And it was really weird because I started from, I was the same thing as you. Like, I didn't get a camera when I was 5, and done a lot of short films with my friends. I was like, for me, it was like, oh, well, what do I do with this? Like, it was really weird, but I had it in my mind. Like, I knew how to light. I didn't use flash when I did the still photography. I always had like natural daylight or fluorescent light, so I kind of had that already. But it was so weird to start move the camera. You're like, oh, if I move the camera, it's stand there. How did you do that? And like, you know, so I really had to get into it. But it was great. I mean, and it was that kind of school where you have to do everything. But I was kind of like, I want to do this, and everyone knew that. So no, never. So boring now. So yeah, so that's how it.
Okay.
How it was.
Yeah, and just because one of the things you said there really reminded me of one of the things you showed me earlier, which I thought was amazing, and I hope we can show.
Which one?
Was one of the things you were saying that on the project that you're doing recently, I was asking, do you storyboard much? And you were saying because when you were saying about coming from photography, it's really integrated into how you're shooting at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Oh yeah, I mean, before we used to, me and Lisa worked a lot together, and we always used to like do shot lists and floor plans and stuff like that, really, you know, in beforehand. But then now we scrap that. So how do we do it? We go to set and we go through the day, like the scenes we're going to do, and then we start with the first scene, and we have talk about it a little bit, and then the actors come in, and then we rehearse it on the floor a little bit, and then I just take stills. Okay, I bought a camera last year when I did Striking Out season 1. Yeah, so I just take loads of stills, like all the angles we have discussed from from the beginning, but also new angles, and just finding it. And then I can just show her, like, what do you think of this? Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's, you know what I mean, like that. Yeah. And it's really helpful for everyone to show my gaffer, to show Lisa, to show the actors,
See, that's what I'm talking about, is the language, like, just rather than actually speaking it, or like standing there going, we want to go here with a close-up, whatever, actually just showing it. It's like immediately, boom, it's like really precise, and everybody gets it. And
it's really handy. So, and then it was really fun as well, because you have a lot of stills from like thousands and thousands of.
Get hired as the stills photographer on the show. So, one of the things, I mean, because this is a women in film and television thing, one of the things that we thought would be interesting to kind of just bring up would be this question of, what it means to be a female cinematographer and what are the challenges posed. And when Kate and I talked about it yesterday, I was driving back from Cork, and Kate and I were talking about it on the phone, and she was going, well, I've always been a woman, so I don't really know. Like, how can I answer that question? I've never experienced as a guy, and I was going, yeah, and I never experienced as a woman, so I don't know what the challenges are. So we were trying to figure out how we could honestly answer the question, and kind of what we came up with, like, Kate was like, well, if you throw out your experience, then maybe I can compare it to mine. So I was going, well, one of the things that I kind of found a bit tricky is that sometimes you're on set, and like, there can be this kind of laddish behaviour, if it's quite a large conglomeration of men. Not all the time, but there's times when it's just like, and like, you know, I worked on a movie and sometimes there's kids on set and stuff, and you just like, you're kind of like, lads, tone it down a bit, you know, you just get a bit uncomfortable sometimes. And I was kind of and the really interesting thing was Kate was saying, well, I don't actually find that. Sorry, do you want to talk about that type of thing?
Well, yeah, just I think that if there's a balance, obviously I'm always there because it's like I'm on the job, so there's immediately a woman on the camera crew, so I think that maybe brings a balance to the dynamic, you know, that it's I mean, it's a bit like this idea of having single-sex schools, you know, like male and female, and that we're supposed to do better in our isolated compartments, but I think that's kind of crazy, you know, that you just wouldn't put us together because we're meant to kind of coexist together, and so same thing for a set, you know. I think it always, if you've got a mix there,
definitely.
And you know, I just wouldn't want to have a whole set of women, you know. I'm not sure that will ever will that happen, but you know, I just think it's not kind of the point of it, you know. I mean, I know there's a whole push now of like 50-50, and I think that's really great, but I just think like if you're to kind of exclude one or the other, it's just not. No.
Yeah, and it's more a kind of a culture. It's more a culture change that needs to happen in terms.
Yeah, well, I think Emer was mentioning a while back about, you know, rather than it being less, you know, like to balance the male female, that it's just about the culture that exists on set or in film, that it's quite alpha, and so of course you can have women that are
alpha, yeah, sure.
alpha, but just that we don't kind of give the label that, oh, less men is better than, you know. I think it's just about how you create the culture that it's a bit more welcoming to maybe the quieter story, or the quieter
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of my.
Frida, do you like?
I agree with all of that. I think that I did a feature a couple of years ago now, my last recent one, where it just happened to be so many female key positions, like the director, the producer, and not obviously me, and the costume, and it was just, we had a pre-production meeting, and we sat down around the table, we were like, oh my god, there's a lot of women around this table. We didn't even discuss it before. It wasn't a thing. It was just like, god, it's unbelievable. And no one chose people because they were women. Women. It was like, no, because they were the best, and they were, you know,
which is great.
So it's I mean, that Sweden is getting more and more like that. Actually, I think it's changed a lot from the last years. I would say, since we finished film school, I think we have a lot of female DPs in Sweden. Actually, I would say like 10 or 15 that are actually doing features and TV and commercials. And I mean, we are struggling. Especially in commercial, it's really, really hard to be a woman, and it's much different. I mean, it's like it's man's world. Of commercials is it's a man's world. I don't know. It's really weird. It's really hard to get in. No, and it's also a lot. Friends, you know, friends. We go, you know what I mean? Like we hang out, and it's like, oh, he's such a. I don't know. It's so.
Sorry, friends. What do you mean?
No, like people are friends and they hang out and they go. You know, like it's that kind of like world.
It's like, a clique.
Yeah, it is, and you choose your mates. You know what I mean? Like,
am I in the filmy group or the TV group?
Yeah, and there are these like male DPs that get all the big jobs like that. So I think all of us are struggling quite a lot with that, but I don't want to do commercials anyway. So
like, you can have it. And actually, that brings us on to kind of one of the other questions we talked about discussing, was this question of, like, you both have worked in Sweden and you both worked in Ireland. Are there many differences culturally or just on set in how it's run? I mean, there's kind of codes for set which are kind of universal. But is there much of a cultural difference in terms of making movies in Ireland and making them in Sweden? Is there things we can learn from the other side?
I don't know. I think first of all, the crews are bigger here. That's the big difference. I think there's more people on set. I mean, like we don't have a first, second, and third AD, for example. Like it's not. So I mean, that was a big thing for me. Like we don't have unit base. We don't have that whole thing.
Okay.
So I mean, you have your lunch in different restaurants, places. It's much smaller. Everything is much more
scaled down.
Yeah. So I mean, probably that's the biggest difference, really. I mean,
what actually struck me in Sweden was this kind of meeting that happened kind of every day before.
Oh yeah,
set, just this kind of
the huddle thing.
Yeah.
And I was always actually tried to do that. I was making out, but it was just like so weird. Everyone was like, "What?"
No, they wouldn't go in.
That's the point. Yeah.
They wouldn't cuddle in the morning.
In Sweden, you always go like, "Okay, welcome. It was a great day yesterday. Now we do this, and the toilet's over there, and blah blah blah." But here, everything is just so floating. It's like we go on set, and everything's just happening. I don't know.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
It's not the kind of organised, let's go for the day kind of thing.
No. And we don't need it here. I don't know. See if I will have it when I come back to Sweden. Maybe won't, but yeah. So that's the difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess just to kind of go to the kind of nuts and bolts. Maybe we'll look at some of the because you've both done very different work. So maybe we'll take another kind of chance to look at something you've done. Who does drama and documentary? Which do you want to watch?
Should try on the drama for a shake up and then
drama for
come back around to talk.
Come back around. Brilliant. So one of the things I think that's kind of really interesting, and maybe we'll look at something from you next, Frida, is that is this question of when you're given a new project, and you were speaking about language earlier, Kate, how do you kind of go about working with different directors to find the language for that film, or to find the way, the style, the shape of it, the kind of journey of the film visually?
The ultimate question.
The ultimate question.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of about spending a bit of time together, because you can read a script or a concept. Again, it's it's that thing of reading, and it's not necessarily like I might read it differently to how somebody else does. So I think it's kind of important to sit down and kind of tease it out, and then to maybe exchange images or film references or music, or like whatever is kind of coming from both sides, and that they kind of find a meeting point. So yeah, it's really just about, I think, sitting down and kind of hammering it out, and then you'd probably, you'll get like a couple of ideas. Then I mean, the other thing is like having time. Like the worst case scenario is like you're kind of hurtled into something and you haven't really had the time to sort of find the language, and so you end up going for kind of a safety formula. So that's, for me, I'm just not really interested in that. It's kind of our work is kind of pointless at that point, if it's...
Is that because you feel you can't infuse it with meaning if it's just show up and point the camera?
Well, what's the point in, like, anyone can turn on the camera and place it and move it and turn on the light or whatever. It's kind of, well, what are you going to do with those tools? Like, what is it you want to say?
And in the interests of the concreteness that we kind of talked about, can you give an example of a film where you kind of evolved?
Well, I'm just thinking of the Farthest, since it was perfect. Because Emer is really great at just kind of, we have a good, we just have a good kind of rapport where she's like comes to the table with sort of references and some mad pictures of planets, and like I think the Great Red Spot on Saturn was like, okay, that's a really great reference. Let's use the blues and the yellows from that in the interviews, or when we're out and about, that we kind of use that motif. But like, I think it's sort of just bringing things to the table and saying, that totally works, or can we try something a little bit like, something similar but not quite, like using the Great Red Spot. Okay, so in the interviews, how are we going to bring in the blues and the oranges? And I was like, I don't really saw, like, actually nobody would know on those interviews, but like there's layers of kind of
colour,
lights, like, so there's sort of a set of IKEA lights sort of strewn across, so the set is actually really deep there. There's kind of a roll of Hampshire frost to kind of soften sort of everything in the background is kind of softening out even much more so than you would get with the lens, and then a sprinkle of like IKEA lights with some sequence, and then sequence material, like, just to kind of pick up sort of
sparkles.
Planets and stars, and so we were just kind of playing around with this stuff. And Emer was like just slagging me off because I'd just be like down the back rooting with the sequence material for like 15 minutes. Be like, okay, Kate, we need to go for this. So what's cool is you just wouldn't know about anything of that when you see it, but like for each interview, it's just sort of keep sort of playing around with all these.
Yeah, so the interviews tie in with the space concept and the visuals of that you've kind of...
Or just like, how are you going to light the people that you let the light fall off, that it's sort of this idea that planets, like the light is coming from one side and then the other side is completely dark, and so it's just like all those different themes that kind of...
So like Dark Side of the Moon is how you lit it. Okay.
Or like... I don't know, even just so like when we were in LA doing the interviews, we then said, okay, well, what motifs can we sort of mop up around here? Like there's a huge amount of traffic on the roads, so what can we do with that in terms of representing people on planet Earth, and our movement and the flow of information from the spacecraft, and all these kind of metaphors that you can wrap into just couple of cars going down the road.
And
so it's just about being clear. So having all those kind of solid chats before you go out.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you see the thing that it, immediately then okay, this is it, we need to get this.
Gotcha.
And you're both on the same page. And I think that's particularly for documentary, it's important because there's so many possibilities, so many ways you can go at it, and in terms of trying to hold a continuity or a unity to the
piece,
to the language of it. Then you need to be kind of clear from the outset.
Gotcha.
I mean, with fiction, I guess there's more of a framework there, and you have a shot list or you don't, but you've already kind of established a way of the language of it.
But sometimes you have to remind yourself as well. That's why it's so good to have motifs. So you have that. You can go back. Because you can get lost sometimes. If it's a long shoot, you go, we think like that. Let's stick to that. To keep it, to hold it together.
Or having a couple of visual references that pull you back into the. Do we have access to that thing you showed me this morning?
It's on there. It's on there, but I don't know. This is a PC. Do you think it's? Oh my God! Maybe I can email.
You can try. There was something Frida showed me this morning, and I just think in terms of the conversation we're having, it would be really, kind of a mood board that you used.
If it's working for
it's just really informative. Trailer for Strikeout Season 1. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it.
Is that good? Can I hit that?
Yes, hit it.
Perfect. Hit it.
Lawyer gone walkabout on top of my professional liability insurance and the fact that I forked out for most of my wedding. I'm broke.
I've no client for it.
They just took Sammy away. He won't come back.
You call this social worker?
You just judge them for how they look.
I'm not. But the court will.
You will take them on though, won't you?
Nobody, whatever their position in life, nobody loses their right to privacy or dignity.
2 women claim the same man as their husband.
You sure you're up for this?
This is my life. These are my choices. The house is all we have, please.
I've done it.
I can do this.
It's very American, that trailer. God, it's American.
Cool. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we did a what do you call it? Like a mood board kind of thing. Visual reference. Yeah. Quite early on, I think we had. I don't know when we kind of decided for the style of it, but anyway, I never been here. It was the first time I came to Ireland. That was like the first day we had a wreck. So weird. I was landing and like straight away go to a location and go. We had to decide, I think, that day if we're gonna have that one or not. So it was quite strange, but quite amazing to just come to a new country and go, oh, okay. And because also in the scripts, Dublin is almost like a character of its own. So Dublin is so important for the show, kind of. So it was really fun to find a way to. Did you find it? Did you get it?
It came through. I think that's an Apple Mac.
And I think
so it's
we. Oh, it's not.
It's not going to find it. But we've got it here, so don't worry.
Oh, cool. I think
what
the PDF
were the characteristics of Dublin that you?
Yeah, so what I struck me was like brick and glass. Like it is brick buildings or Georgian brick, or it's glass. It's a lot of glass buildings. A lot of windows in the what do you call it?
Skylights.
Yeah, skylights everywhere in toilets and really weird. We don't have that in Sweden at all.
In the toilets, the skylights.
So I think that was like that was somewhere.
It's kind of creepy.
Wherever you are, like that's Anyway, but so that was probably the first.
We're lacking light.
But yeah, we can have a look at that.
I just found it really instructive when you showed it to me, because for anyone who's seen the show or even from the trailer, you can see how much thought was behind the original concept and then how it was delivered on in the show. So I'll just kind of flick through and then if you want to narrate.
No, you can actually.
Or do you want to flick it?
No, you can do it. You can do it.
Can I?
Yeah. Oh, how do you do that? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Can I make that bigger?
I mean, everything is in there.
Can I make it bigger? There, that thing. Is that helping? Not much.
Go up. That's that weird.
How do you make that the whole?
It's not that one.
Does anybody own them? Anybody own a PC?
Oh, don't worry, we can see.
We're grand,
we can see.
You get the idea, sorry.
Yeah, so reflections, we talked about a lot about reflections.
Yeah.
And
So I guess
a lot of reflections.
Yeah, so with your glass.
A lot of glass, a lot of reflections. You can scroll down.
Sure.
Yeah, two in a frame we talked a lot about. Relationships between people. And you scroll down.
On your.
I always want to see the eyes. Like it's quite dark show. I mean, it's very contrasty, and the blacks are very black. But we talked about that. You always have to see the eyes. That's the most important thing. So that was one thing. We wanted skin. We didn't get that much skin though. That's a shame.
Well,
we have a little bit.
But the skin colours was important.
Yeah. Have a lot of frame within a frame. Try to find that wherever we are. We have some really good locations, silhouettes, a lot of silhouettes. So it's quite funny to look at it now and go, yeah, we actually nailed this motif.
I remember this.
Don't you?
Well, I mean, I do now. I'm looking at it, but it's been so long. It just does look like a show.
And obviously, the city as a character, like if you're on a location, try to find the location with a view, or people that lives in Dublin. Oh, that's there. Or that's it's always there. Like the town is always present. It's always behind and around them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was important. And this is just a little bit for how daylight should look, and interior and exterior, and what else is it? You can scroll down. So a little bit just for what kind of night we wanted cyan looking. It looks a bit. I want it to look a bit American, or like I love to work with colors in the lights, so that's my thing a little bit.
To make it more slick.
Yeah, exactly. So we wanted Dunbar's, the main, the office where they kind of work, the cold glass building, wanted to be quite cyan in the blacks and stuff like that. I think we kind of nailed that. We don't have much close-ups, but if there is close-ups, we want it to be the reason for it, I think. It's quite interesting, actually. Me and Lisa just discussed it the other day, that when we look at for example, Ego or short films we've done, they're so close-up, like they're like there. Like,
close-ups are
like
so
you wouldn't
tight.
do that today.
6 or 7 years ago, yeah.
How much you change your style about things like that, It's quite interesting. So a lot of necks, a lot of following people behind, and so that's the look of that.
Cyan and the blacks.
Yeah. So I mean, so then it's just locations and stuff, but and it really helps because it's a long shoot, and it's so much time pressure as well, and it's so easy to get lost a little bit in it. Because it's like, stress, and you're like, so what should we do then? And then you just have to calm down and just go, what are the motifs? It's reflections. Can we find reflections here? Can we, like really try and also it helps because we have so little time, and this year we also have so many locations. I think the style of the show is perfect for the fact that we don't have time, because I always switch the lights off and I always use almost daylight. I mean, it's a lot of natural light in some locations because we don't have time to light it, or because we don't have the money to, because it's such a big place, whatever. Which makes it so easy to work, silhouettes. It's so easy, and it's beautiful, and it's like it's the show.
Yeah, it just takes a bit of courage, I guess, to trust that you can pull it off.
Exactly. And another thing, sorry.
Oh, sorry, just thinking about the fluctuating light. Like in Sweden, you get a lot more like, okay, today it's sunny.
It's more even.
Or today it's all cloudy. Whereas
here it's a little bit
got this kind of.
I mean it is. And then at first, when I came here, I was like, oh God, that's going to be so tricky. But everyone's so relaxed about it because everyone is so used to it. So it's like, that's the way it is. I mean, we did shoot some rain stuff with fake rain, and it was a sunny day, and it was like, doesn't matter.
It's Ireland, totally.
Yesterday it was actually raining, and the sun was shining at the same time. So you get away with it, but it's really tricky. We did the last scene yesterday. Was we didn't have any. We just went with the natural, and it's really tricky to keep the continuity of that scene.
Contrast.
But it's like, you don't care about that if you're into the story in a way. So I don't really mind about that. But
and do you try to have a kind of an overarching thought?
What do you mean? In what way?
Well, I'm just kind of saying, like, if you're doing a film or a TV show, do you have a kind of a, like, what that was really interesting for me because I could see each of the elements. You're going, oh, I can see that element in the show. I can see that element. I can see that element. But is there a kind of do you kind of sometimes have a picture or a kind of a I don't know. It's more like a concept or what the show's about. Like if the show was about
can't remember looking at this one.
Finding your way from the darkness to the light or something. I don't know. It could be anything. You could have kind of so like in that I could say like there's times when if it was like she's a person who's kind of in a position at the beginning of the show where she's kind of she ends up she's going to get married and she's it's the night of her hen party and she ends up being plunged into this really dark space where she's kind of lost and she's wandering around at night time. So like with me, from when I'm looking at those things, I go, okay, so silhouettes and the reflections, all these things could be kind of something how for her journey so that she ends up in a kind of a brighter place or I don't know, do you think about things that way or?
I can't remember, Lisa. Do you remember? I keep forgetting what we talked about.
We always think about her emotional perspective.
Yeah, of course we do.
I mean, choose where to place the camera.
I mean, the thing is it's striking out. We do kind of everything. We have the rig Maxim Artemis rig that we use a lot because one thing that Lisa was talking about from early on was like I wanted to be fluid. I wanted to move all the time. I wanted to have that smooth and not handheld or nothing. Just really smooth and slick looking. And that was just such a perfect thing to have instead of track and dolly. It takes a little bit longer time and it's so easy to just like hook it up and just go for it like that.
And do you operate that yourself?
Yeah, I operate it myself and I think that was really great in that way because we have to work so fast as well. So I think that was one of the first things we talked about. I was going to lost my thread here a little bit. I couldn't remember what I was going to say. What did you ask? Now I remember. So we have the rig, but then, I mean, we use track and dolly, we use handheld when it feels like it should be handheld. It's a lot, but the thing, I think those motifs, even if you go handheld or suddenly it's a drone or whatever, doesn't really, it works really well.
Still hold.
Because the look of the show is the same. So I think that's probably, it's really important, I think, when you do a long show like that as well. And it really worked, I think.
And Kate on that?
On that note?
On that note?
No, I just think it's like continuity of image is really important, and I think it's it's quite a tricky thing to achieve because especially over time. Like you've got this. How many weeks would you be shooting for a season?
No, it's 12 weeks. This time. So.
It's much longer than a feature. Say with documentary as well, you might be shooting over a year. So, and in between you'd be shooting other things. Sometimes I find like I'm coming back to something and
you bring the accent of something else.
Yeah, like totally. I have to kind of try and break that because you get into a mode of looking at the world in that particular way, and then to kind of break that and step into the other mode. It's it can be tricky sometimes, but sometimes they can inform each other as well, and you can kind of sort of cross-pollinate. But it is important, I think, just to kind of try and hold. Like that's a big thing for me in documentary. Just a lot of the time people think, well, the story will carry you through, but I kind of always argue for like, no, let's try and run with the same camera from start to finish. But there's always these moments where you can't, like I'm not available. The situation is happening and they need to shoot on another camera and I'm like, no. So I find that kind of like painful to watch when it's all cut together, but like that's just my character. I like to have just that it's a full unit that works together. So that's probably like I think sometimes I struggle a little bit in documentary because that I can't kind of sit easy on that sort of the compromises that you have to make image wise. So I find that I'm doing a little bit more kind of stylized documentaries or docudramas. I mean, there's a bit of a fashion with docudramas now anyway, so it's sort of doing a little bit more of that, which I feel, I don't know, it's maybe a little bit more my strength than being more fluid with docu style.
I just want to. Do anybody does anybody have any questions that they'd like to kind of come on board with at this stage? If anybody wants to,
I guess just as you were talking about Kate, documentary in your style and kind of stylized stuff, and it's well for everybody. How big, if any, is a factor with budget in kind of deciding projects you want to get involved in? Like I work in documentary and we've had to build rigs from dog collars and spines of books and things, so money is always an issue. But just in terms of like equipment and resources, is kind of a lower budget or higher budget, is that ever a factor in what you choose to work with, or is it like the director and the story or the documentary subject? Or
I think it's like kind of, is the budget appropriate for the story that you want to tell? Sure. Yeah. Like depending on what it is or how you want to say it, is the money there to kind of, I mean it's always tight and you always have to kind of juggle one kind of tool against the other and weigh it up and sort of try and make it sit in, you know. But no, I mean if it's a story that I'm excited about, you know, yeah, it's not driven by money. I mean, you can't be in this business from my perspective. You know, it's about kind of telling stories. So.
Is there anyone else here?
I guess I just had a question about you say with your mood boards and stuff and the colours you want to use. How much do you try to do in camera on set, and how much would you sort of be willing to, or do you use you colour grading in post instead?
With striking out, I think a lot of it's in camera. I mean, we kind of what you see in the dailies are very close to what it's going to look like. It's definitely, in this case, it is.
But you'll always go through, like you do a grade. And
Obviously, yeah.
And you share that with your art department, your costume department, so that everything's, if you don't want red or something like that, you take it away.
So in that, no, but it's true.
Everyone has to be on the same page with what colours you're going to avoid and which colours you're going to bring in.
Yeah.
And I guess with the colour grading thing, like with the big budget Hollywood movies and stuff, there's a lot of fads and trends happening with it. Is there any that you like particularly hate? Like the cyan and orange one seems to have died off a bit, but it was going for a good while.
I love that look.
It's not dead here.
I can't
There's the door.
Keep it alive. No, I don't know. I don't care about trends. I don't know. It's just the feeling of, I don't know, the project and what you're doing and what's it about. I don't know. I don't know. I don't care about trends. Really.
You have to put kind of fashions aside and just what is it?
What are
you trying to do?
What kind of style are we after? Or,
I mean, there was a kind of phase of like crushing the blacks, or you know, like, and then it went to like all soft and kind of like lacking contrast. So you'll have that going on, and sometimes with graders, like if you haven't worked them before, you have to sort of get them in the zone because they're maybe used to doing it a certain way, and it's like bringing in pictures or references. It's great actually to bring in a little test before you even start shooting, because then you can sort of get them excited about the project and kind of start to create a look and sort of have an idea what the parameters are for you to work in. You know, what's a better way to light or shoot.
Some other hands are there, yep.
I'm just wondering, there aren't very many female cinematographers. Do you think you guys bring a sort of a more feminine aesthetic to the end product?
I had similar to that question.
I got that question a couple of times. I don't know. I think I thought that question has been coming up a lot of times, but it's.
I want to know what a feminine aesthetic is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you put flowers and things.
Is there a softer or something like say Catherine
I wouldn't
Bigelow,
say so.
Like her movies clearly aren't like you'd never like so masculine.
But I think it's just about being sensitive. Like whether you're a man or a woman, you just have to be sensitive to the world around you. Like that's what makes a good.
More sort of be more sensitive.
Definitely.
But like
it's not different people. I don't know. I don't think. I mean, I don't. It's really hard to answer that question, I feel, because when we went to film school, for example, as an example of that, we were 3 DPs in my class, and I was the only woman. It was 3 men, and I'm very I talk a lot, and I have a lot. You know, my goals are really high, and I want to go there, and I'm very full on. But for example, Ola, that was in our class, he was quite insecure. He wished he had more of what I had. Like he had no confidence at all. Like and he's so talented, but. So I kind of, he's there now, he's doing features and TV and stuff like that, but I was always a little bit ahead because I was like, like that, and he was always a bit, I can't, and
that's not the question.
you know what I
The
mean?
question I'm saying is the aesthetic, like do you think
Yeah,
the end
no.
results have...
No.
Don't? No.
I don't think so.
And I think there's also like I tend to get a lot of scripts with kids and, like female-led pieces, and, that's great. But that's not only my world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I think there's definitely, it should be opened out, like our, just society does that, we're brought up with that sort of thinking that women are great with kids or whatever.
So
I don't have kids, there might be a man who has like 4 kids and is great with kids,
Yeah.
And so like just these kind of preconceptions.
So the projects then that you get chosen for then, do you think sometimes you get chosen for being a woman?
I mean, it's hard to say, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
It's really hard to say. I don't know, actually.
Maybe ask some directors.
Yeah, exactly. No, but the thing is, maybe, I never been asked to do, I've been asked to do thriller and, TV, like thriller, that kind of drama and stuff like that, obviously, but no one has ever called me about a violent film, or it's like films with a lot of action and stuff like that, which is like, and I do think that's because I'm a woman, definitely I do. It will change though. You just have to prove yourself. You have to show them what you can do, and then they will forget about you. They're not gonna think about you as a woman. It's gonna be like you're a great DP, that. But with every project you do, you get more confidence, and I know I can do a James Bond film. It's all tools and money, really. It's just talk about a shot you want, and then you find out how you do that. Like, how hard can it be? But I think it's still like that, actually. That I think that the male DPs, they get that kind of job. I don't know. It's just sad, but it will change. I'm positive. I'm never going to be bitter. Bitterness is a poison. If you get bitter, it's like, well, no point. Just quit. Just have to. I don't know.
Are there other questions out there floating around? No? Oh, another one? Sure.
Well, about the kind of there was a lot of discussion recently because of Wonder Woman about the male-female gaze and the way that previously female superheroes were being shot, or female subjects in general, I guess, and the difference between how it was shot for Wonder Woman. Do you sort of have a different? Do you ever think about, or do you think that other DPs think about when they're shooting a subject, are they shooting it through their own sort of what they would like to see, or their own kind of desire, or what they find attractive? And do you find you do that, or that you work with other people who do that? In terms of like shooting with, obviously.
Well, if I understand it correctly, like I think there's always a subconscious at play that maybe it's just you're drawn to something and shooting it in a certain way. But
there's like a very classic sort of female superhero shot between the legs. Yeah. Like you see it quite often. It's the kind of comes up and you see your butt and between the legs, and they sort of I don't know if it was deliberate, but they sort of managed to avoid a lot of that shooting Wonder Woman. Do you think that kind of perspective will change? And that do you think that as a female DP you have a different way of looking at it?
Yeah, you have to be aware of it. Like it's your what do you say? Responsibility to do that. Definitely. Otherwise nothing will ever change. I think Wonder Woman was amazing. I cried 5 minutes in. I was like the tear, and I was like, why am I crying? This is so weird. But it was so. And then I realized why I was crying was because I never seen a woman do that on film. Yeah. In that way, it's so powerful. It's like, I get goosebumps just talking about it. It's just like, I thought it was amazing. it is what it is. Like it's that kind of genre, but I just thought it was amazing.
Yeah. No, I actually had the same effect when I was watching it, because I was going. I had the same thing. I was going, God, it's so incongruous. It's mad to kind of go, gee, you just don't see this.
No. It's like with Glow, the new Netflix series Glow as well, I think. It's not about, like, yeah, of course there's love and sex or whatever, but it's mostly about, like, women and, you know, being friends, like, you know what I mean, like, there's this sisterhood, and which is so nice to see. So, like, oh, thank God, finally, you know.
It's very physical, but they're not objective.
Yeah, exactly. They are gorgeous and they're sexy, whatever, but it's
They're
not
not being shot as sort of sexual objects, they're being shot as people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so just there were one or two other questions because we came up with questions together, and maybe we'll just look at one or two of the other ones that came up. Just on a practical, there were kind of one or two practical questions that we were kind of looking at that we thought were kind of interesting, and that was kind of just time and budget constraints regarding moving the camera or getting movement in a scene. Like, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I know you guys were kind of talking about it together.
Well,
very briefly, but yeah. You want to start?
I don't know why that was in my head, and I mean, actually, just looking at the Farthest trailer, like, there was a fair bit of figuring out, like, how do we move the camera when, well, we won't have a grip, obviously, and the camera needs to be, like, we need the kit to be kind of transportable, you know, because we were moving around from state to state. But we wanted to sort of have just a sense of the spacecraft is continually travelling while we're here on Earth, and it's going, and just that you have this sort of feeling of looking up and passing under things, like familiar Earth. And so Emer came up with the idea that's eyes looking up. That was our reference. So it was always like, can we do if we came across something interesting while we were out and about, like architecture or a place or a plant or whatever it was, but there was a fair bit of figuring out how we're going to do this. So in the end, like, initially it was like, can we run, scaffold tubes, how long can we run them for? Can we transport them, can you connect them
on a skateboard, is it, or something?
Yeah. And then that just wasn't really working. In the end we had it was a DJ Ronin, so it was similar to the Maxima, but much more basic system, so it can be temperamental as a tool, but we were able to just get shots in the woods where it's all like up and down, bumpy, and you can just get this lovely kind of smooth feeling of sort of floating
in a short space of time.
Yeah, well, Emer might argue. Once we got the hang of it, then it was a bit of
Is that like a rig
wrestling.
that you wore, or what?
Turned upside down.
Yeah, it's a kind of
it's a camera stabilizing unit.
Yeah, it's a gimbal head, but then you had sort of various things like a kind of easy rig that had a bungee system coming down. I don't know how do you support the Maxima?
Yeah, with an easy rig and a Serene arm.
Yeah, okay.
You can reconfigure it though to point upwards.
Yeah, so that was the biggest problem because I didn't want to look up. So it was sort of tricking the gimbal head to think that it wasn't looking up, it was looking straight
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's just watch.
Did you want to?
No, I don't know.
You want to?
No, but yeah. Well, I don't know.
It's like just when you're stuck for time, and I mean you're working with the Maxima then every day. Are you also using a little bit of drone, maybe or something?
Yeah, I mean I use everything I was supposed to say, but this year we have track and dolly as well, so I can always go on track and dolly if I need to. So I use the Maxima in different variations. So I use that on the dolly if we don't have time to lay tracks or whatever, and because you can be on the dolly and can actually it's taking all the shakiness away. So we've done a lot of different funny things with that. I mean, it's really good. It's very good, and that makes we can work really fast, and we don't have to have a Steadicam operator if we want to do. I mean, but now we have had it because we've done rain and stuff, and it's not very good with rain. The rig. But I can do almost anything with it, really, like that.
So this Maxima rig is not good with rain, is that what you're saying?
No, it's a little bit sensitive for that. But yeah, so in that case we have Steadicam, and or if it's really tricky, so I can't do it. It's hard to walk upstairs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
up the stairs with that because it's a little bit. But
so
I think it's
find
great.
It tricky to swap over if somebody else is, say you've got a Steadicam in, and then there all of a sudden there's another kind of.
It's another brain that you have to get into. Like, no, it is. It's a bit frustrating. You just want to go like that. But we had a really good one actually this time. He was really good, and he listened and he understood, and we did it really quick. He was amazing actually. You should work with him. Greg, his name is Greg. No, so
name is female.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's not. Unfortunately, it was a he. No, so I mean, yeah, it's quite. I like to do it myself.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. I'm a control freak, so I prefer to do it myself. I remember last year my group Paul, he was like, I can do this to save my back, and I was like, no, I do it. I think it's so hard to give it. I actually do think so. But in this that you're going to show now, I actually had a Steadicam operator for the whole thing, which was a little bit unusual.
Okay.
So we had him every day for the whole shoot. He did all the blocks. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see what's working. Yeah, sure.
After she's corrected it all in post.
Just put on a wider lens and I'll reframe in post.
But he was great. I mean, he understood my style.
She shot it all on a 9mm lens.
In 4K.
4K, yeah. 8K, 9mm lens. Walk over there, point the camera that way. I'm going to take a monk in post. I like your style.
Yeah. So it's a clip, this is the beginning of
Det är min bil. Hej. Du, det gör ingenting att ta längre tid den här gången. Det går fort, jag lovar. Så okej. Sätt dig.
Rör dig inte. Du kan gå nu. Gå.
Gå. Gå. Gå.
Ni köper oss. Ni äger oss. Men det är inte som ni tror. Egentligen så äger vi er. Det är er vi tittar på. Det är ni som liknar oss. Det är vi som är äkta och det är ni som är de falska människorna.
Well, you didn't want to run out. No, exactly.
Yes, there's a really strong amber and red motif there.
No, it was quite funny to do this show actually. I mean, I didn't set the series, so I haven't. The style was already set, but I really liked the style.
Yeah.
So it was my style. So it was lucky for me. But so yeah, I mean, it's another world. I mean, it's about Hubots, as they call them, like robots in the future, and everyone's got their own, helper at home. Everyone has a robot, and then some of them are free because someone has fiddled with them. So they are kind of in between. They're a little bit human, but they are still Hubots. There's a lot of interesting things there about being, should they be treated like humans or like robots? So it's a really interesting story actually. and it's been a remake now in England called Humans. But it's quite different, I think, the English one. This is very playful, and the costumes are very over the top.
Okay.
And they really look really old, and you know.
Did you do anything differently, like lighting-wise or lens-wise that you wouldn't normally
Trolle, who's the DP on that, who kind of said it, he had these motifs that he sent me, so I knew a little bit what he was thinking.
Like what kind of ones?
Like the U-boats should never be like backlit or front. It should always be quite flat. So you know,
flat-lit.
Yeah, flat-lit. But we kind of went past that a little bit with the U-boats that are actually more human, the free ones, the ones that are you know a little bit both. I can't remember. There was a couple of motifs. I mean, also the cyan theme going with the night. It's not really the moon. It could be the moon, or it could be a street lamp, or it could be. It doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you want. Really, you can just pick a color and just throw it in there, kind of feel, which was quite fun. It was really playful to do, but. I was a little bit worried about the Steadicam thing because I'm not a fan of Steadicam. I try to not use it if I don't
puts you off?
Have to. It's just I don't like the look of it. It's just, I don't know. It's
rocky
I don't know. It's just something about it I don't like. But we had to. I had to.
Time-wise or style-wise?
No, because they're style-wise. Like they wanted to have style. They wanted to be able to do those kind of moves and always have it on set. But it was with Zoom as well, which was quite funny actually to sit behind the monitor and actually could zoom on it. So I was in control a little bit. No, but he was so great. So suddenly I didn't tell him. Suddenly I just started to zoom. But then he was really good at, he noticed of course, and then he started to frame after that. But we did some really cool things with like tracking and zooming and stuff.
So you
really
got in a
nice.
dance with him then?
Yeah. So I mean, and he was great. He really understood my style as well. So. I didn't have to tell him more headroom or wider.
So maybe that goes back to your sensitivity question again. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
If they kind of, because we were talking about it the other day about sometimes you've got a grip, and the grip can be really sensitive. Like he'll move the camera, and he won't like go, do you want it faster or slower? He'll watch the actors. And he'll just respond to the performance.
Yeah.
And they'll come in because the actor's not going to give you exactly the same thing every time.
No,
so
exactly.
go a little bit faster, and the actor plays it slower. It's like
so
you get a mess, and you have to overcompensate as the operator.
Yeah.
But if you've got a grip who's sensitive,
it's
they'll
really
completely
important.
respond to the moment. And
that's true.
You're all in the dance.
And focus pullers.
And focus pullers. Focus is so personal in a way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we always have really interesting discussions with Andrew, who's our focus puller on this one, about things like that. Like
when you should pull.
Or even Tommy actually have some opinions sometimes, and I will listen to him, my loader.
Good, and Rob's here.
So I mean, it's really, I love that collaboration, talking about why you do film. I mean, I love the teamwork.
Yeah.
I love it, and to be open and not to really listen to people's opinions, and still be the boss, or still be I'm me, so the one that takes the decision. But I love the fact to bring people in.
Yeah, I mean, without going to a specific example, I think we were talking this morning about sometimes when you're in a position, and I don't know if this is sometimes it can be maybe more prevalent if you're a female cinematographer. It certainly happens if somebody on your team thinks you're way less experienced than them. You don't have to be female to experience it, but it's certainly, I'm sure, more prevalent.
It doesn't help, no.
Most female, but you've had experiences before where you've had kind of people outstep their mark.
Definitely. In that case, I wanted to actually say to him that I think that you treat me like this because I'm a woman.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't say that actually. I was planning to say it when we had this the meeting about it, and I just had to talk to him about his behavior.
Specifically about it?
Well, sorry.
Did you call a meeting specifically?
No, we had a meeting in the morning just to talk about it. Yeah. And I think that beforehand, I just felt like I just had such a strong feeling that he would never treat. I feel. Like that. But I'm not. I don't know if it's like that. But
it's so tricky to bring that up.
Yeah, it's just so I didn't, and I'm really happy I didn't.
No, it's not. And you think, oh God, I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have mentioned that I'm a woman. Maybe you didn't notice.
No, that's the thing. Like sometimes you want to bring it up, but you don't want to bring it up. You know, like we talked about. We don't want to talk about the fact that we are women, but now we're here. Obviously, we have to talk about that. We're women. You know what I mean? Like, so it's so I don't know. It's tricky. It's really tricky. When I was in film school, and it's so awful. This is awful. But I kind of saw all the female DPs as threatening or like a competition. Competition, which is awful. It's awful. No, I didn't. But it was this thing where I didn't want to hang out with female DPs. I didn't want to collaborate with them. This is so awful. But I was so. I'm really driven, and I want to go somewhere. Like I want to, and I didn't want to talk about the fact that I was a woman. So instead of helping each other, I did the opposite. Like I don't want to talk about it. I'm a DP. That's what I am. But then I think it was when I became in the board of the Swedish Society of Cinematographers, and we met so many female DPs, and we started to hang out. We realized we need each other.
Okay.
It's really sad that we do, but we really need it, and we help each other a lot.
Need each other as in?
As in just talk about stuff, like talk about cinematography and talk about technical things and. Yeah. So we have our own Facebook group for the female part of the Swedish Society of Cinematographers, where we actually sometimes I just feel it's much easier to just go there and ask something technical about something.
Okay.
Because there's so many men in the society, older men, and they're like, have so many opinions, and you're like, talk about other stuff. That wasn't the question, but okay,
right,
you know what I mean, being a bit like mansplaining and this is like no. So annoying. So we do that a lot, and we meet as well. We have meetings only us, and we go for dinners, and we pass job forward if we can't have a job. I say call Ragnar or call Ellen, or we really boost each other.
And sorry, the answers that you're getting when you're on the other forum are more like, let me answer these other things that I assume you don't know.
Yeah, a little bit like that. It's just sometimes I do that as well. Depends on it's just much. I don't know. The atmosphere is so much nicer in the female forum than in the male.
Okay. I want to join.
But we definitely. That's great. No, but I have to say also that we have a strong community for cinematographers in Sweden as well. So because I'm in the board as well, we meet, and it's probably 50-50, I think, in the board.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have two. What do you say? Ordföranden, board, head of the board. Yeah, is a woman and a man. So so that's great.
That's good.
And I definitely have so many amazing male colleagues that are like my fans. They really root for me and they help me and they've been there, and they're amazing men. But it's also, they're also feminists. I mean, and they say that.
Okay.
They are, you know what I mean? Yeah. There are some good men out there. That's great. No, but we need each other. I think it's important.
And what about you on that one, Kate?
Yeah, just listening to this saying, I think I'll move to Sweden.
Don't go.
Just join the Facebook.
I come here instead. We can hang out.
Yeah, I mean, it's still very early days, I guess. Like, there's maybe 3 that I know of, female DPs, and one of them's working in London, so
So it's small Facebook
group. I need to rack it up a level.
I think it's really helpful, actually.
I mean, it's definitely I have pals that I know from Poland that are female DPs.
Yeah.
So that's nice to tie in with them, but it sometimes it is a bit lonely, like being the only or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, there's just this kind of checking in with other females. I mean, I don't know. It's just not that it's a sisterhood, but like it's something in that zone of like just putting aside the male. Sort of, I know more than you, or
the competitive sort of.
Or it just doesn't feel maybe balanced, like the power.
Yeah.
Can I add as well? You've obviously blanked it out, Kate, but when we were shooting in studio here, you felt that you had to kind of explain what you wanted to the gaffers more than a male DP might have had to. That you were saying move that. There was a bit more. Really? You want to do that? That you were having to kind of...
Double checking. Yeah.
Oh, that's really awful. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, like, I have to say, studying in Poland was, like, pretty good training in that respect, because for me, it's like, there's a lot more sort of macho behaviour going on, and so you have to just kind of let them get it out and then ignore it, you know, because otherwise if you engage with it, it's just sort of like fires it up, and then the conversation becomes about that rather than what you're trying to do on set. So
you let them burn it off, kind of.
yeah, like just, you know, I'm not going to engage with it, so then it sort of dies down, but you know.
Okay.
I think I just remember now, I had a discussion with my other colleague Ellen, who's a DP in Sweden, about the what can I say, the hard thing with being a female DP, I think, is because we often are maybe a bit more quiet and have a lower voice, doesn't speak, you know, with that kind of, oh my god,
you need a louder voice,
like that. And actually Ellen, she's quite short, and her voice is really tiny, you know, like that. She doesn't own her space, and so we actually had a lot of discussions about having like workshops and stuff where you actually learn how to be project, to take place, and like, but I don't have that problem. I really don't. And but some of the female DPs do have that. I think that's really, it's really sad. But I mean, so probably that's one of the things that is different, because you have to own your space, because otherwise they're gonna eat you up. Those men that are a bit like that, you know. But I've been really lucky here, though, I have to say. My team, I feel 100% respected. You know what I mean? I don't feel that they treat me in another way than, you know what I mean? But I mean, like you said, I met those people as well. But obviously I choose also people that I feel I get a sense of. I have a good sense of feeling. When I have a Skype meeting with a gaffer, I can feel
how he's speaking.
He's going to be great for me. I mean, because I have spoken with some really nice gaffers, but I could feel, oh, he's not for me. It's not, you know what I mean, like that. And Tim, that I'm working with now, is amazing. I mean, do not have that thing where you have to. He's like, he's on it. Cool. But I'm also pointing with my hand, you know what I mean, like that. I mean, if you don't have that pondus, that's so much harder. Don't you think?
Don't have that what, sorry?
That pondus, like that. No, sorry, pondus is like.
What is it? Like, you know, that Tom Cruise thing. When you come into a room and you have like
presence.
Yeah. So you need that.
Frida. Channel your Tom Cruise. That's the moral of the story. Your inner Tom Cruise. We're over?
Sorry.
Yeah, so that's kind of, we've run out of time. I just want to say thanks so much to both Frida and Kate for sharing.